If you're planning to cruise with Holland America Line on any of their ships, then listen up. This cruise line does some things a little differently to the competition, and there's therefore some things that you really should think about in order to really maximise on your cruise experience. In this video today, I'm going to share with you 10 of the big mistakes that so many Holland America Line cruisers make. I meet people on ships who make these mistakes on their first cruise. I also have met people that make these mistakes despite the fact they've been cruising with Holland America Line for years. I really hope that you'll find this video useful today. If you do, then please do consider supporting my channel by clicking both the thumbs up and the subscribe buttons. Now let's get started on the first of 10 mistakes that so many people can make when they cruise with Holland America Line. First, don't make the mistake of not downloading the Holland America Line mobile app before you head to the cruise port. The Holland America app is also known as Navigator, and this really is your digital best friend on board the ship. You can use the app to view and book things like shore excursions, restaurant reservations, and also your daily schedule. You can even go through the daily schedule activity by activity to build what you want to do each day on board. One of my favourite elements of the Navigator app is that you can go in and view all of the restaurant menus each day. They're updated every morning of the cruise. That means that you can look forward to what you're going to order at lunch or at dinner later that day. It really is one of my favourite aspects. You're also able to use the chat function within the Navigator app to talk to other people that you've met on board. So if you are travelling with friends and family, or if you meet people on board, you don't need to worry about buying an expensive Wi-Fi package to communicate with them while the ship's at sea. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll probably already know that one of my pet hates is on embarkation day, going to the top deck and seeing people standing with their mobile device raised into the sky, trying desperately to get an internet signal because they haven't downloaded the app and they need to do it before the ship goes out to sea. I should say you don't need to do it, but if you are relatively tech savvy, it really will improve your experience. When you're at a busy cruise port, like for example Fort Lauderdale or maybe Barcelona or Piraeus in Greece, you can sometimes be fighting against 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 other people to also try and get a mobile signal. So yeah, sometimes you just don't have any joy. That means that the ship will sail out later that day and you'll still be trying to connect to your app store. It's really easy to avoid this one. All you have to do is, if you're at home right now, go on your app store and search for the Holland America Line Navigator app and get it downloaded, and then you're good to go. Second, don't forget to book both your ship and shore experiences before your cruise. It can be so easy to make the mistake of booking your shore excursions before you head off on your cruise and forgetting to book the things that you want for on the ship, or doing the other faux pas, which is booking the things you want on the ship, but forgetting all about your shore experiences. I've also met relatively seasoned cruisers out there who have totally forgotten that there even is an online account assigned to them. They then log in to check into their cruise a couple of days before, and they then realise that they could have added Wi-Fi, drinks packages, the have it all package, so on and so forth, and they totally forgot. And that usually then means that they have to pay more once they get on board. It honestly, it blows my mind. It also drives me mad when people go on to the cruise thinking that they're going to save money versus booking it online in advance. That's almost certainly never ever the case. So if you know that you're going to want a Wi-Fi package, for example, then you really should log in to add that to your account before you head to the port. Another problem that can quite easily present itself if you don't log in to book things before your cruise is availability. Now, things like Wi-Fi packages, drinks packages, okay, the availability of them is obviously not going to be an issue, but Holland America Line do cruise to some less cruised parts of the world than the other mainstream cruise lines. That means that when it comes to shore excursions, some of them will be operating on a much lower capacity than what you might be used to if you have typically cruised elsewhere with the much bigger ships. That means that you can go on to book what you really want to do in port and it's already sold out. So if there's anything you want to do on the ship or see in the port, log in before the cruise and get it booked. Third, research the specific ship that you're planning to book for your future cruise, because Holland America Line operate with a very wide variety of ships across their fleet. In total, there are 11 ships in this cruise line's fleet, and they span across 4 ship classes. There's the Pinnacle class, the Signature class, the Vista class, and also the much smaller R class, all of which are very, very different to each other, and they all have really different facilities. I've cruised on both the Pinnacle class and the Signature class. Some would argue that they are relatively similar. I, however, felt as though they were really different, and when I was on Signature class, they were really missing some aspects of the Pinnacle class that I really, really enjoyed. And for that reason, I've already booked my next cruise with Holland America Line, and it's back on Pinnacle class. Now, don't worry, you're not going to see the same scale of issue as if you're used to cruise lines like Royal Caribbean, for example. They operate a massively diverse fleet, with the new megaships having facilities that the smaller traditional ships simply could not dream of fitting on board. The main issue with the Holland product is that some of the smaller or the older ships won't have the same number of venues or the same size of venues as the newer, much larger ones will have. If you look at it from a capacity point of view, the larger Pinnacle class ships have got the ability to hold around 2,600 passengers, but the much smaller R class ships, which I haven't been on yet, only accommodate around 1,400. So when you picture that in terms of the impact that would have on the size of the ship and the facilities on board, there really is quite a difference. So just make sure that for whatever ship you're planning to book, you do your research. You're already doing that here on YouTube. Why not watch a ship tour? Watch a review. Go on Google and check what people are saying and see what that ship looks like, just so that your expectation matches the reality of what you find on board. Fourth, don't book a cruise with Holland America Line because you're expecting or hoping for an adult-only experience. This is an element that really did surprise me on my first ever cruise that I took with Holland. I expected to find very few or no kids on board, but the reality was that there were, in some cases, kids relatively everywhere. If you went up to the pool deck, for example, there were loads of kids there because I was cruising during the school holiday window in the US. That then meant that the children were available to go on holiday, parents then travelled as a family, and it made the ship a much louder, much livelier affair. I then went back onto another ship for a slightly longer cruise, but it wasn't during holiday times. There were way less children, but there were still children there. Holland America Line generally are pretty good with kids. They have kids clubs, they have facilities, and they have events to entertain kids. But during mealtimes, there will still be children in the dining room. And if you would have any degree of a problem with kids being on the ship, then you will want to look for an adult-only cruise ship or an adult-only cruise line, because Holland America Line are catering for everyone. Number 5, don't miss afternoon tea, which is also known as tea time. All through the cruise, there will be tea time on your ship, and honestly, it is fantastic. Each time it presents itself, it will usually change nationality. For example, there might be a Balinese afternoon tea, there might be a British afternoon tea. Well, there definitely will be a British afternoon tea. There will be so many different variations of it. And it's such a nice way to spend an hour, especially during a sea day, when you can just sit back with tea, cakes and sandwiches and look out the window at those rolling ocean waves. I was really surprised at the amount of emphasis that's put on high tea or tea time or afternoon tea on a Holland America Line ship. I've previously cruised with the likes of Cunard, and on Cunard they really love afternoon tea. It's a real spectacle in their main ballroom on board. I didn't expect it to be as big a thing on Holland America, but if you are cruising with this line, then make sure that you book afternoon tea into your schedule. Number 6, move around the ship in the evening. Don't make the mistake of settling down in just one venue for the night. On the newest class of ship, that is the Pinnacle class, they have this music walk area where each venue takes it in turns to play, and regardless of what venue you're in, you'll be able to hear the other one. That's not necessarily the case on some of the older ships, where the venues are much more separated. The musicians on these other ships still do take it in turns, so it's really important that you move around from venue to venue to try and catch them all. This cruise line is actually one of the first that I've cruised on in a long time, where I've prioritised going to listen to the live music entertainers over the theatre show in the evening. I really like dinner and a show when I cruise, but I've really enjoyed on my recent Holland America Line cruises having dinner and then retreating to one of the music lounges, and then when that show finishes, move on to the next one. And when that finishes, move on to the next one. And it's really interesting because there are very few other cruise lines out there that will tempt me away from that evening show in the main theatre. So yes, make sure that you don't just settle down in one venue, move around and see everything that your ship's got to offer you. Number 7, don't miss the regional performances that are going to be offered on your Holland America Line cruise. I was surprised to see on my last Caribbean cruise with Holland America that there were local steel drum bands that were brought onto the ship to entertain guests. I thought it was a really nice touch, and it's something that I have seen since, but on much smaller cruise ships from much smaller cruise lines. I was really impressed to see this from Holland America, and I actually thought it was a really nice way to spend time on board, and it was very different to the typical shows that you would find in the theatre. Now, I am not saying that I would like the cruise line to do more of these regional performances instead of the stage shows, because personally I love the stage shows in a theatre on a cruise ship, but it was a really lovely change to have locals come on from ashore to entertain using local instruments and also local methods of playing. I'd be really intrigued to know how this works all around the world, because the Caribbean lends itself very well to steel drums, but I haven't actually taken a Holland America Line cruise elsewhere. So if you've cruised to maybe Asia or Europe or anywhere else with this cruise line, come and let me know down in the comments what the entertainers were like. Did they bring local entertainment on? And if so, what did they do? Number 8, consider booking your accommodation for before or after your cruise through Holland America. This is one that I have actually never recommended people do, because I didn't realise that cruise lines did this until I went onto my online account just yesterday actually, and I was looking at prices to add accommodation onto my future cruise. My next Holland America cruise will be from Fort Lauderdale, and I was very impressed to see that I can add accommodation before or after my cruise in both Fort Lauderdale and Miami. The real benefit to booking this through the cruise line is that they will include the hotel alongside the porter service and transfers to get me to the port, and also I'll have access to a dedicated host. As I say, I've never seen this from a cruise line before. It may be much more common practice, but this is just the first time I've come across it. From a price point of view, I also found them to be very competitive versus what I would find if I jumped onto a hotel search engine as an example. And the hotels that they're using seem to be, in the case of Fort Lauderdale and Miami, pretty decent hotels. So if you're getting a good hotel at a good price with the reliability of reliable transport to get you to the ship the next day, then it's definitely worth thinking about. All you have to do is log into your cruise account and click on Flights and Planning up in the corner, and then you should have the ability to select hotel and travel packages, and they will all be ready for you there, and you can book them all online. The 9th big mistake that cruisers with Holland America Line could make that is so easily avoided is that they could leave the cruise on the final morning with an entire suitcase full of dirty, worn clothes, Or worse still, they might halfway through the cruise have to rewear something they've already had on because they don't realise that they could actually book unlimited laundry. Some cruise lines out there offer passengers access to self-service laundry rooms. That means that I, as a paying passenger, could go into a laundry room, I could use a washing machine, I could use a tumble dryer, I could then iron my clothes, and then I could go back to my cabin. That is often free with cruise lines, but you might also find that they operate on a token system where I have to buy a token for the washing machine and the tumble dryer, for example. Now, Holland America Line do not offer self-service laundry on their ships, but what they do offer are laundry packages. You can, of course, pay to have your laundry done per item. Of course you can. You can do that with every cruise line out there. But the unlimited packages are where things get pretty interesting. I need to stress that the word unlimited here does mean that you could process as much laundry as you want during the cruise, right up until the end. That means on night number 2, you could put a bag of laundry in. Night number 5, you could put another bag. Night number 11, you could put another bag, so on and so forth. The price might sound quite expensive, but when you remember the fact that it's unlimited and it's per cabin rather than per person, suddenly that might be quite attractive. My next cruise is a 12-day cruise, and the price for unlimited laundry is $120 US. I believe for a 7-night cruise, the price is around $73 to $75 US. So for me, by the time I convert that back into British pounds, it's actually quite a good deal for everybody in that cabin to go home with clean clothes. So yes, number 9, don't make the mistake of going home with dirty laundry. Number 10, the 10th big mistake that so many Holland America Line cruisers could make, and in fact, this is probably the number 1 question that I get asked when people find out that I've cruised with Holland America. This mistake is that people who need the Have It All package forget to or don't add it, or people that don't need it add it on, and they therefore lose money as a result of doing so. Have It All is one of the packages that you can apply to your Holland America cruise, and it gives you access to things like Wi-Fi, shore excursion credit, speciality dining, and some drinks. It's well worth considering, but there are so many things that you need to think about. And that leads me really nicely onto my next video. If you'd like to understand the topic of Have It All more, then come and join me over in this video. Here we unpack everything there is to know about Have It All, and hopefully I'll be able to help you decide if you should or shouldn't add it to your future cruise booking. Thank you so much for watching this video today. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll hopefully see you over there.